All right, Groovesters, Groove Stars, Ridgely here, and I'm super excited to bring up a topic with a good friend of mine that you all need to know about. So, welcoming to the podcast, founder of Hero GMB, Andrew Dale. Andrew, thanks for taking the time to be with us today. Really appreciate it.
Excellent. Thanks, Ridge. I'm really looking forward to this.
Well, here's the thing. You want to hear your story, and we're going to get into. I want to just preview what you're going to hear about Groovesters because this is really important. There's a massive shift happening in the way that people search online. In other words, the way they search for your business. And we're going to talk about what you can do to position yourself to be found a lot better, quicker, faster, more efficiently than everybody else. But before we do that, let's go back. Take us back, Andrew. Where did you start in your professional career? I know it wasn't initially as an entrepreneur.
No, it wasn't. Actually, I had I'm a former Marine, and there's really actually no former Marine, but I was an active Marine. Um, I was a police officer in New York, um, and I was an entrepreneur at the same time. Um, I had graduated from Fordham University. I got a degree in business, and always loved business. While my friends were out golfing and doing other stuff, I was immersing myself into the world of SEO before it was even called SEO. So I created my first online business in 1993. It was like a really rudimentary e-commerce business. When I say it was as basic gets, it was like 2 or 3 pages. You could order this book that I created at the time, and you would mail in your check or a money order to a post office box. I would get the check, I would cash it, make sure that it went through, and then I'd mail out the book. It was like e-commerce at the beginning, and that's where I started.
I love that. That's it. There are people watching and listening to this, Andrew, who weren't even born when you started that process. Just saying, not that we're old. We're just seasoned veterans, is what we are.
Seasoned, absolutely
Now, how
seasoned.
did you become, because this is largely a conversation about SEO, first of all, what is SEO and how did you become interested in it?
Okay, so back in the day when I had created my website, we didn't call it SEO. We called it like getting my website found, right? Like it wasn't
Right.
it wasn't a great term, and people really didn't understand it. So basically, I went out there and I just was grinding and trying to find places where I could get little advertisements and I could get I would create a little image ad and try and beg and plead and everything else and try and get it on other people's websites that I knew were getting traffic. Um, and then all of a sudden, like these directories started popping up, like Hotbot and CompuServe and all these Northern Lights, and they were very reactive. You had to input your information in, and based on the information that you put in, you would find a ranking. You would show up somewhere in their directory, and then you would take a look at what the guys above you were doing. You'd go back in and kind of tweak your profile a little bit and try and get yourself up a little bit more and everything else. And that was the game back then. Um,
Now let me check. Let me just check in with everybody. So I hope everybody's paying very close attention to the parallels between today's digital marketing and what Andrew was doing in 1993. All he's talking about is optimizing your site. And for those of us who are digital marketers and have been in this game for a long time, that is a process that never, ever stops. It's just a matter of what does it look like now? What does it look like yesterday? What does it look like today? So you were optimizing your website literally over 30 years ago.
yeah, well, I was optimizing a lot, mostly optimizing my profiles, right? Because it wasn't until Google came along where Google wound up becoming, very proactive. And Google had the bots, crawlers, spiders. There are several names for what they have, and they would go out and they'd scour the internet. They'd find information, take that information, send it back to their index. Somebody would do a search through the algorithm. Google would decide, what the best result would be. So what happened was, back in the day, we were optimizing profiles on directories. Then all of a sudden, Google came along, and we realized, wow, we need to actually optimize our website. And everybody was trying to figure out what was going on with Google. Like, what is this? How does this all work and everything else? And I had figured out, like, hey, you know what? Google probably has some really cool, processes and everything else. They probably patented some of those. So I went to the U.S. Patent Office and I started grabbing as many of the Google patents, search patents that I could possibly find. And I started reading through them and everything else. So I started to get a pretty good understanding. They were a little difficult at first, but after a while, you start to read them and they're really not all that difficult, You started to read them, and then all of a sudden you were like, wow, okay, not only do I understand what's going on, I see where they're going. Because, they would try and patent stuff way before they started to implement it, because they didn't want to throw it out there into the wild and have somebody else grab it and copy it or whatever else. So I started to realize that, there was a lot of different things going on under the hood, and there was a lot of different things that I needed to do to my website and for my website in order for it to start to show up on Google. And let's face it, Google is the 800-pound gorilla in the forest. It is the monster. I mean, you have Bing, you have Yahoo, and they're grabbing small percentages of the market. But Google is, it is the beast. So it was a matter of trying to slay the beast.
And you have, I know that from having the privilege of working with you, that you continue to read all these patents and you continue to study what they're doing.
Yes, as I said, I was involved in the world's greatest bait and switch. My wife thought that she got a Marine and a cop and, like, this real tough guy. Meanwhile, she didn't realize that she got a closet nerd, because I was reading all these patents and this was my true love. So I joked around that it was the greatest bait and switch. She definitely, but she puts up with me, which is good.
That's good. So okay, so this is really interesting, and I hope everybody's paying close attention, because we're talking about the origins of SEO and why it matters. Now, somehow through all of this, you managed to make some good connections over at Google, and now they invite you to test things for them and check stuff out. How'd that work?
Yeah, so I had that business that I was talking about sort of morphed into a business where we started giving away information for free, because we were putting Google AdSense, which is like when somebody would put ads on Google, or put ads that Google would put on other people's sites. AdSense we were the receiving end. We would actually publish those ads on our website, and I was doing so well with them that Google actually contacted me and asked me to come and speak at their Google AdSense in your city, as they were going across the United States, basically to show other people how they could use AdSense and really generate money. And obviously Google was generating quite a bit of money at the same exact time. So I started to get invited to these events, and started to make contacts with different people within Google, and started to get involved in beta testing and stuff like that for them. And which has been great, because not only do I kind of know what's going on through the patents, but then I get to play with it before it even hits the general public, which is really awesome.
Yeah, and for everybody that's listening, what you're about to hear about has not hit the general public yet. Okay, so this is what we're about to talk about is so cutting edge that only the people who are in the beta testing and in the testing inside Google, plus a tiny fraction of where Google is rolling it out in a testing type phase, have even heard about this. Okay, so pay attention, Groovesters, because you're about to learn about something that is going to have a profound impact on your business and every other business that relies in any way on search engines and search engine optimization and rankings to build your business, sell your products, sell your services. So this is super cool. I'm like really happy that we brought you on, Andrew, to talk about this. So you were involved and you're in all the Google tests and whatever, and you began to hear about this new thing called generative AI, or what is formally referred to as Google SGE, Search Generative Experience. How'd that happen? How'd you get into that process? What'd you think when you first heard about all this?
So I was given the opportunity to beta test this. I didn't even know really what it was when I started to beta test it. The rave is AI, right? Everything is AI today. Everybody's talking about AI and AI. But what I didn't realize was that, AI was going to be an extreme threat to Google. Google looked at AI and said, wait, we have an issue here. As people were using, let's say, ChatGPT to ask questions and get answers immediately without having to go to a search engine result page and now start fishing through different websites in order to find the information that they were looking for. Google realized, wow, this could kill search. So what they decided to do was they decided to build their own AI, which is going to show up in the search engine result pages, and you can interact with it, much like you can interact with ChatGPT or whatever else. And Google said, you know what? What we're going to do is we're going to build this. We're going to put it right into the search, because that's where everybody's going right now to begin with. But it is going, and as I'm testing this, like it's going to change search dramatically. I mean, more so than anything else that I've ever seen in the history of search. It's going to be as big, AI, especially like SGE, is going to be just as big as like Gmail was, to the general population.
Yeah, thanks, man. Let me jump in here for a second to help everybody understand what you just said, because it is profound, and I want to make sure we don't leave anybody behind. So what happened here? OpenAI came along, ChatGPT, our brother Sam came out there, created this company, and they began to sink venture capital began to sink billions of dollars into the development of AI. Guess who has billions of dollars also? Google. So Google says, wait a second, we need to compete with this, or our status as the 800-pound gorilla is going to be severely threatened by this new way of finding information, which is OpenAI, ChatGPT, right? So Google starts sinking tons of money in. And let's pay very close attention. When it comes to search engines and finding things, Google already has a ginormous advantage, because that's where everybody goes to find stuff. In fact, Google has become a verb. Let's Google it, right? Googling things is commonly referred to in the verb space. So they said, all right, what can we do to make this experience of people looking for things on Google a much better experience? And tell us what you discovered in that regard.
So what happens now is when you do a search, well, like I said, I'm involved in the beta, so it shows up in my search engine result pages. I do a search, and one of the first things that pops up is what they call Google SGE. It is a whole section where it tries to answer the question that you asked, or give you the information based on what you put in the query box. But you can now interact with it. Google is basically, it tees up what it thinks is the most relevant, obviously, but then allows you to interact with it. So for instance, if you Googled something and it brought up a specific business, now you could ask Google, well, what are their hours? Do they have this product? You can ask them any questions at all. How do I get there? Or what is this company? Do they have this service, or whatever the question is? But what I realized very quickly was, it was one of those, if you weren't showing up, if your business wasn't showing up in SGE, then all of the organic searches, all the organic results we're pushed much further down on the page. And let's face it, when we used to do Google searches, if we didn't find what we wanted to, we didn't go to page 2. We always joked around that the best place to hide a dead body was on page 2 of Google because nobody ever went there. So what you would do is you go back up to the top a query box and you'd modify your search and you'd click enter and boom, you had a new set of search results. Now that's not going to happen because now you can interact with Google right then and there and you can ask it different specific questions or whatever else. And if your business is not showing up there, you are at an extreme disadvantage. It's almost like people, I know a little bit better, but most people, when they're searching and they see this result come up, they're like, wow, Google thinks this is the absolute best business. It's almost like Google gave it a recommendation. I mean, and I don't know of a better recommendation that you can get than Google, but it literally will tell you, you know, this is the information about this particular business. When you type in, let's say something about teeth whitening, it will show you this business and they do teeth whitening in your area, blah, 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 blah. And these are the other services that they offer. And now you can interact with Google about that particular business. It's absolutely incredible and it's going to change search.
Yeah, so let's just back up for a second because that's a lot of information, and me being involved in this because of you, I understand what's happening. But let me break this down for everybody that's watching, because I really need to make sure that if you have a business that in any way benefits from search engines, that you are aware of what's about to happen and can prepare for it, which is what we're going to talk about next. So you go on Google, something's wrong with your car. This little space shows up at the very top of the search engine. So right where you land first. In the old days, in Google search old, you would type in auto mechanic near me. And it would bring up 1, 2, 3, 4, based on their search engine rankings of the auto mechanics near you. Here's what's going to happen now. You type in auto mechanic near me. It's going to respond in an iterative fashion along the lines of, what are you looking for in an auto mechanic? Oh, something, my car is making a funny sound. What kind of funny sound is it? Oh, it's going clink, clink, clink every time I turn to the right. Oh, that sounds like a steering mechanism. Yes, it is. I'm exaggerating a little bit. It's not going to go quite this depth, but this is going to be the experience. Sounds like you might need a steering expert. Yeah, that's great. Where do I find one? Okay, so now imagine if you're the user and you've gone through all of those questions, you've interacted back and forth with Google. Google then comes back and says, well, we found Joe's auto mechanic shop right near you that handles this kind of problem. You're not going to go looking for number 2 or number 3 or number 4 on the search page because you've already had all your questions answered. And Google, to Andrew's point, are making a recommendation to this specific business. I hope you're getting how important this is, because it means that the way your business is currently portrayed online is going to determine whether or not you show up in Google SGE or Search Generative Experience, in generative AI. If it's not portrayed well, if it's not portrayed properly in the way that Andrew is going to share a little bit with us without geeking out too much, you're not going to show up. So others that know how to position themselves for Google SGE are going to show up before you. And here's the danger. People are not going to look anywhere else. They're not going to go any further. In the old days, they'd look at number 1, number 2, number 3, nobody on page 2, as Andrew mentioned, but they'll look at a few. Now, if they interact with the tool and they feel satisfied with the answers, they're going to go with the choice that Google recommends, and you best hope it's you. So, did I say anything that was not accurate there, Andrew? I want to make sure we're giving accurate information.
No, you say it so eloquently, though, Ridgely. You know.
Yeah. So So then talk to us. That's funny. So I just want to make sure everybody gets it because this is so critical, especially if you're a service business. OMG, if you're selling a product that helps people and you want it to be in front of them, you've got to know how to set up your Google SGE so that it gets found, so that you get found when Google, somebody is interfacing with SGE on Google. So what can people do? What are the key, give us the key, punch list, but not too many, right? Just the main things that people can do so that they start showing up properly in SGE.
So there's really, let's say, 4 points, and I'm just kind of just going to kind of go over each one real non-geeky, if you will.
Okay.
So the first thing is, if you offer a service, if you offer a product, whatever you offer, your website needs to be optimized for it, meaning the title tags, which is like what shows up, which is the most important thing about what that page is about, and the content on the page. If you don't have a page on your website about a specific service that you offer, Google doesn't know about it, and they're not going to recommend you. So you need to make sure that your website is thorough and it has good information, it has good content, and that it's laid out properly. Like I said, Google's not going to take a guess that maybe you offer this service. If it's not there, it doesn't exist. So that is the first thing. You really want to make sure that your title tags, which is like the header about what the entire page is about, is properly optimized. It has to have what it is. Let's say you do teeth whitening in Brooklyn, New York, right? If you're a dentist and you're in Brooklyn and you do, well, if you have a page about teeth whitening, it should be teeth whitening in Brooklyn, New York. And then, maybe the name of the business afterwards. But if you don't put where you're located, if it's a geo specific type of business, right? If you're offering a service or whatever else in a specific area, you want to make sure the location is in that title, and you want to make sure that the service is in that title. If you sell a product, you want to make sure that the whole name of that product is in the title tag. If it's not, then you're missing out on a huge opportunity. So you really want to make sure that that website is really fully optimized to the best that you possibly can, and that you have everything that you offer is on that website. So, and it's current.
No, so for everybody's benefit, when we say fully optimized, what we're talking about here is that your description of what you offer, the benefits of it, the intricacies of it is very, very clear. That is the optimization in this case. We're not talking about a bunch of super geeky, what is the keyword density? What are meta tags? We're not talking about that. We're talking about actual content. What do you offer? Is it clear? Is it described clearly on the page so that when Google goes to take a look at, hey, I wonder who offers this, it's clear. If that's not clear, Google is not going to find you for that product or service.
Absolutely.
So that's one.
So that's number one. The second one is a little bit geeky, but it's so important to the process. So years back, if you would put information on your website, let's say you had a recipe, or let's say you had a book, there was micro data that you could put on your website that would explain what that was. It would explain that it was a recipe, or it would explain that it was a book, or it would explain that it's an article or a product, or whatever the case may be. But the problem was, you had to make a decision. Did you want to use micro data to mark it up for Bing, or for Google, or for Yahoo, or for whatever search engine? They all had different micro data setups. So you had to make a decision because you couldn't do more than one. So what happened was, Google, Bing, Yahoo, and Yandex, which is Russia's largest search engine, all four of them got together and they decided that they were going to agree upon one set of micro data. So you didn't have to make a decision between, this one or this one or this one or this one. Now, somebody much smarter than me had said to me, well, when four of the largest search engines actually agree upon something together, okay, we should probably listen. And they were 1,000% correct. It took me a little while. It took a hammer to knock me over the head. But once I realized the power of what they call schema, and schema markup, and that's SCHEMA. Once I realized the power of it, I was hooked. And all schema markup is a way to be able to tell, let's use Google in this example, to tell Google exactly what that page is about. So if it's a product, you can create schema markup for that product. That it's a product, that it's it does skincare, it's the color is white, it is 3.5 ounces, whatever the case may be. You can put all of that information in there, so Google doesn't need to guess. And I can guarantee you that most of your competitors are not putting schema markup on the page. And what that schema markup does is it tells Google, and it builds your knowledge graph. And your knowledge graph, we're going to get into that in a second, but your knowledge graph is what Google knows about your entity. Google doesn't look at things as businesses everything is an entity with Google. So Google looks at it and says, okay, this entity is now related to this product. This entity is now related to this service. And it can do that through this schema markup. Now, if you're using websites like WordPress or whatever else, there are plugins that can help you do it. If you're a local business, you want to have local business schema markup on your website. It tells Google, this is the name of the business. These are the hours that we're open. These are the areas that we service. These are the service offerings that we provide, or these are the products that we provide. And this is probably one of the biggest things that you can do, not only just for SGE, but also for your organic rankings, right? Because if you're a local business, you really want to have SGE, which is coming out probably the second quarter of this year. I'm still thinking I'm in 2023. So by the summer, it's going to really be rolled out to a good portion of the Google users out there. And if you had SGE, let's say you're a local business, then you have a map listing, and let's say you're number one in that map listing, and then you go to the organic rankings and you're number one again, right? You have the best opportunity to be highly visible, and literally your competitors are going to be pounding the table trying to figure out how you just did that. And one of the biggest things is to, don't let Google try and guess what you're about. Tell Google exactly what you're about, and you can do that through this thing called schema markup. Now,
Okay.
originally, we can have another thing about schema later on if you want to, and get like a further into it, but it is just a markup that really you can't see on the front end, but Google eats and digests and loves on the back end when it has its spiders and crawlers coming to your website.
All right. So for everybody that's out there that is not a super geek, how does that translate? So what we've talked about so far is identifying to the public that what you offer is very clear on the page. Content, right? That the header and the content is on the page. And now identifying to Google, to its search engines, its crawlers, its bots, whatever you want to call them, what it is that you offer. So two different types of identification. One is clear language to the people. The other is clear language to Google. So that's two. What's number three?
Okay. So 3 would really be if you are a local business where that map listing really, really, really matters to you. But even if you're not a local business, that knowledge panel, when somebody does a search for your business name and it shows up on the right-hand side, that is your knowledge graph. Okay, that's what Google knows about your business. And if you have a map listing, you can go in and you can input tons of information through that map listing, which is like a main line right into Google. Okay, because Google knows that map listing belongs to your business. So it knows that anything that's being said in that map listing is basically coming from the business directly, and it can trust it. So what happens is, if you have a map listing, you can go in and you can tell Google, these are all the services that we offer. And I can tell you, I do a lot of optimization in Google map listings. And sometimes people have services listed and they don't put down like the description of that service or whatever else. They miss out on so many opportunities to be able to tell Google and tell the public, this is what my business is about. So you want to go into that map listing and you want to go through every single section, and you want to make sure that every single thing that you can tell Google about your business, good or bad. And like sometimes, like they'll have a section about language. And now if your business only speaks English, okay, just click English. You don't need to try and like impress them with, oh, well, maybe we can find somebody that speaks Russian or whatever. You just want to tell Google exactly what it is that you do. What Google's looking for is profile completeness. It's not looking to say, oh my gosh, these guys speak more languages than this guy. That's not what they're looking for, but they're looking to see that you checked off that box. And you can go through your Google map listing and you can tell Google everything about your business. And then with the Google map listings, you can continue just sort of like a blog post, however often you want to schedule it. And I always tell people at least once a week, you want to create a Google post. And a Google post is like a short little blog post. And you can link that back to a specific page on your website. If you're talking about a specific service, teeth whitening in Brooklyn, New York, you can make that post about your teeth whitening service in Brooklyn. And you can then link that back to your teeth whitening page on your website. So Google now starts to see, okay, now this post and this information goes to this page on the website. This information now goes to this page on the website. And it really helps Google connect all of the dots. But your Google map listing is the way that you can tell Google everything about your business. And that information on your Google map listing absolutely needs to match the information on your website. So like your hours need to match, your address needs to match, your phone number needs to match. All of that stuff needs to match. But that is a direct line to tell Google everything about your business.
So notice, guys, here, what Andrew's saying to us is, hey, people, I'm Google. Tell me what you do. Tell me what you offer. Tell it to me completely, clearly, and without any inconsistencies. And if you do that, if you show me that you have that ability to paint that picture beautifully, clearly, in both people language and schema markup Google language and on your map, we're going to rank you more highly than anybody else because of that complete picture that you paint. Now, one thing I want to bring up for everybody, in addition to that ongoing piece that Andrew just mentioned, the rest of this is largely a one-time optimization. You go in there, you set up your content on your website, you then set up your schema markup, you then set up your map listing knowledge graph, do that properly. It's a big bunch of work, but you only have to do it once to begin to send a message to Google. Hey, we did this exactly the way you want. Therefore, show us to the public before you show all those other people who didn't do as much work as we did, which makes total sense. You get out what you put in. All right, what's number 4?
Okay, 4 is the last one, and 4 is authority. So back in the day, how Google started to make the difference, and choose which website was going to rank number 1 versus the one that was going to rank number 2 or 3 or 4 was they looked at it and said, oh, we might think it's great, but how does the public think? So what they did was they set up sort of a voting system, if you will. Okay. And this voting system involved if somebody from another website linked to your website, they looked at it as a vote, sort of like, hey, listen, they're kind of recommending this website. And Google still has held true to that today. Now, there's been a lot of ups and downs with link building and everything else. There's some people that do a lot of black hat and they get caught and the website gets penalized and everything else. But there are such great opportunities out there for you to, it's not like a geeky, I look at it as it's not a geeky going out and just building links. You can build authority for your website. There are people out want to talk to you about whatever it is your business does. You need to connect with them. And you need to ask them once they connect with you, and let's say they're going to interview you or they're going to quote you, you're going to ask them for a link back to your website and say, listen, if anybody wants to find out more information about this, you can come here. You can write guest posts for different blogs that are on the internet, specifically related to your business. Now, it used to be quantity, but it's not quantity anymore. It's quality. So if you can get some great quality links back to your website, right? And you can do that by like a local newspaper interviewing you. You can use Arrow, which is help a reporter out. It's a service that you can sign up for, and they will email you. They email you a lot. They will email you stuff that they think might be in your wheelhouse and connect you with a journalist that's looking to write a specific article about whatever it is. So if when you read these little descriptions about what somebody's looking for, if you think you fit that description, then you just reply back to it. Um, you know, Being quick to the draw is really important on Harrow, because if you wait 3 days, they're probably not interested anymore. They're going to move on to something else. But that is another great way. And like I said, there's also other people out there that publish blogs that you could go to and say, hey, listen, I'd like to write a blog post for you, and you can do it that way. But authority, you also want to make sure that on all of these other websites, I'd say Yelp, right? And we call these citations. Let's say like Yelp and Merchant Circle and all of these other websites that are sort of directories about about different businesses. You want to make sure that you're listed in all of those as well. It just helps Google to trust that you are a legitimate business, because that's really what Google's trying to do. Google's trying to sift through all of the spam and all of the garbage to find what they call a brand. They want to see you as a brand. Going from an entity to a brand, and what they do is they start to understand that, okay, you're linked here, you're linked here, you're linked here, and that all goes into your knowledge graph. Now you're not seeing it, but Google has stitched all of this together about your business. And when you go out and you create these links, you just want to make sure that, once again, your address, your phone number, your business name, your hours of operation, all are exactly the same as your website. It just proves to Google that everything is legitimate and they can trust the information that they're getting. And once again, I mean, that's really what it comes down to. If you're able to do all four of those things, you will start to see a big rise in your organic rankings, a big change in your map listings, okay, and it will pop you probably right to the top of your map listings. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, within the map listings, you want to make sure that your categories, which is probably one of the most important things, you want to make sure that you choose the proper category. Don't let Google choose it for you. You want to choose the category, and you could take a look at the categories that all of your competitors that are ranking really high are in, and you probably want to mimic that. But once again, it's the schema markup. It's making sure that your website has all of the information that Google is looking for about any service, product, or anything else that you offer. You want to make sure that your map listing, like I said, which is a direct line to Google, and you want to make sure that after you're done taking the time to optimize everything in there, like you said, you want to make sure that you put out those posts, okay? And once again, you want to go out and you want to make sure that Google realizes that you're an authority in your business, in your service area or your business area, in your niche. And you do that by making sure that other websites that list businesses and everything else have your business listed as well. That's sort of the soup to nuts. I mean, it's a little bit more intricate, but like if you just do those four things, you are probably 95% of the way there.
Yeah, and that means 95% of the way there to showing up first on Google SGE, which is the new way of doing searching that is coming in the first half of this year, that is going to change everything. In other words, what Andrew Dale just shared with us will put you at the top if you do what he said. So last question, we're running out of time here. Resource. What if somebody wanted to learn more about all this stuff as a true guru expert, what would you recommend they do?
Well, the problem is there's not a lot of information out there about optimizing for SGE. Even guys in the SEO industry, I would say only like 20% of them are talking about it. And I'm scratching my head going like, you guys are going to be left in the dust. I mean, but don't get me wrong, it's not really my position to go out and tell the other people, hey, listen, you know what, you're missing the biggest opportunity in search that's coming. There's really, unfortunately, there's not a lot of information out there about the subject. I will be starting a blog in reference to it, Ridgely, and I will share that information with you as soon as it goes up, and it probably will be up within the next week or so. Just talking about, like I said, step by step, things that you can do, and actually getting feedback from people that start to implement some of these things and want to hear their feedback. And if they have questions, if they have problems, or they're definitely going to have questions, because I still have questions, that at least there's a resource to go to be able to talk about this, because I'm telling you, there's really nothing out there right now about this. And it's shocking.
Yeah, and what we'll do is we will include the link for everybody to take a look at and go and get more information. I will tell you that there's no question that this is real. All of my agency clients are clients of Andrew's, and all of them rank #1 in SGE right now. So to tell you that this is real, I know it not only because of my relationship with the expert, Andrew Dale, but also because he's already proven this to me with all of our agency clients, our elite agency clients. And so I wanted you to have this information so that you can get a jump on the rest of the marketplace. Andrew, we'll probably have to have you back once this thing launches in earnest. But I want to say, on behalf of the community, thank you so much for all of your expertise, all of your knowledge. Deeply appreciate the way we broke it down in a way that everybody can actually go out and do that and gain the benefit. You're the man.
I can tell you one thing, originally, and we'll end with this. Everything is great. Knowledge is awesome, but you have to execute, right? Because if you don't execute, it doesn't happen. So I would just tell everybody, take some action, do something, find your map listing, get in there, optimize it, do something, because once you start to do it, the momentum continues and you'll want to do more. But the biggest thing is, knowledge is great, but if you don't execute, you will never, ever, ever get there. So with that, just like I said, go out there today and try and do something to better your knowledge graph.
Perfect.
And that's it.
Andrew Dale, spoken by the master. Go do something. And what Ridgely's going to tell you is go do it all. Do everything that Andrew just suggested. If you need to, go back to the beginning, go slowly, listen, pay attention. We summarized it a number of times. Just want to say, Andrew, thank you so much for giving us this knowledge. Deeply appreciate what you've shared with all of us. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you so much.